G'day, my name's Phil Irons. The good folks at Woodcut Tools have asked me to produce this little video going from unboxing it, putting it together, and then showing you the different methods of using it for nesting bowls. Whether you're roughing out some wet cut wood or you've got a precious piece that you don't want to waste and you want to get the maximum number of bowls out of it. So I will start by unboxing it. So once you've unboxed your Bowlsaver and identified all the parts, you can start to assemble it. So here we've got the swivel plate and the tool post. So the first thing you do is just thread that into the base. Just do that. Drop it into your banjo. What I do is just pull that and then pull that round tight onto the post. And you can just set that back there. Just slide that way a little bit. So we've got two blades. We've got the large blade, which goes in the outer slot, and then the smaller blade, which goes in the inner slot. And you want to make sure that the cutter doesn't protrude past the edge of the black plate. Next, you've got the handle, which locates on the roll pin at the front, and then two bolts or Allen screws to tighten it up. So they just go in, tighten both those bolts. The next thing to do is to attach the little tailstock Morse taper. Now you want to do this so that you can catch the washers if you don't get it on right the first time. Okay, got it. So that just tighten that up there. You don't need to tighten it right up at the moment. Just leave it so it's a little bit loose. The final thing to do is to attach the handle. And that's just slide that on, push it on so it engages well, and then just do up the Allen screw in there. So that's that. Next thing to do is to set the height. So you want to put a center in your headstock, and then bring that across and just check or adjust it so that it is spot on the center line. That's a little bit low, so I just loosen that off. What I do is just lift it up, check that spot on, lock your banjo, then just drop the collar down onto it. I find that's the easiest way to do that. So that's your Bowlsaver ready to go. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to show you several different ways of using the Bowlsaver. The first one I'm going to show you is to make a nest of bowls that you finish as you go along. And then the next version will be roughing out bowls. So you'll be turning them and leaving them to dry and then returning them. So I've marked my center. This is a 7.5mm drill bit. So that's deep enough. The reason for using this is that if I want to get, I can get the maximum number out of here. If I put a faceplate on there, I'm going to lose where the screws go. Get this mounted on here. So this is only roughly cut with a chainsaw. If you're doing pieces this big, they mostly will be done in this fashion. So this bowl blank is 13.5 inches or 340mm approximately diameter, and it is 6 inches deep or 150 mil deep. So when you're mounting a piece like this, you want to get the best grip you possibly can. So a nice wide foot on here. I'm using a Vic Mark chuck. The standard jaws aren't big enough, so I'm going to change them over to the what they call 120 mil, 128 mil. They're actually 110 internal. The spigot you create is about 110 mil as against 48 on these jaws. So you want a nice wide grip on there. So I'm going to swap these jaws over. So I've now got the large dovetail jaws on the chuck, and I'm going to measure the diameter of them and prescribe a circle on the bottom of the bowl and then create a spigot. The temptation quite a lot of the time is to use the standard jaws and put a recess in the bottom. This isn't as safe as gripping a spigot. A recess is always, you're pushing the wood apart rather than pulling it together. If there are any faults in it and you over tighten the chuck, you can force the piece apart. So using these jaws, which as I said are 116 mil, where they prescribe a perfect circle, and you can check that by just running your finger around the inside of them. And if they don't grab on the corners, you've got a perfect circle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to measure that because I want to create a deeper spigot on this piece. So I'm going to open them up a little bit, like one turn, and then measure the diameter of the jaws there. Now the reason for doing that is I'm not actually measuring the diameter here. I want the diameter down here. So I am measuring, opening the chuck up a bit and then opening these up, and I will use that to prescribe the mark on the bottom of the bowl. So this leg is just going to scribe, and the other one is just looking at it. So I'm just looking for the mark. That's it there. So a bit of pressure, and that's spot on. That's perfect there. So there I've got that mark there. That is my, in there is my the diameter of the spigot that I want. So I've got close up to that line. And now I can continue with the outside shape of the bowl. I'll actually come back and finish this spigot off, but I just wanted to set it up at this stage. Now that the back of the bowl is finished, I can concentrate on making the spigot. And for that I'm going to use a dedicated scraper that is ground so it's exactly the same shape as the dovetail of the jaws, or same angle. So it's a 77-degree angle, which is what the dovetail is on Vic Mark jaws. So the long face here I'm lining up at right angles to the bedways, and I'm going to create a spigot. I've got my diameter mark there. I've got the tool rest below center. And rather than try and do this in one go, I am just taking my time, letting the tool do the work, and creating that spigot. Now the beauty of starting on a screw chuck is that I can check the chuck, check the spigot. So I can take the chuck, make sure there's no shavings in there, put it on, and then check what it's like. that's almost freely spinning there. I want it so that it's just a fraction smaller on there, so that is the chuck can spin freely on it, and all I've got to do is just less than a quarter turn to do it up. So I want to take a little bit more off this, just a fraction. So I'm just going to slide down that face. If you cut with the point, you're going to get a lot more, it's going to be a lot cleaner than if you just push it straight at the. So if I was just to push that down there and try and cut this face here, it's not going to be as effective as just sliding down that face and taking a tiny little step off. So let's try that again. Now I've got a big foot on this because that's perfect. That is perfect, and then if I come back overhead, it is less than a quarter of a turn, and that's tight. That's not going any further. Just check the other side. So now I will pull that back a bit for you. Now you can see when I start that up, that chuck is running very, very true. There's no run out on that at all because I've got a very, very accurate spigot there, and it's also very strong because I'm gripping the whole piece of the whole spigot. I'm not crushing it. Those jaws are just touching all the way around there. They're not, the corners aren't digging in and breaking this away. So it's a perfect circle there that is ideal for what we want to do. Now I'm going to carve 3 feet on this later on, so I've got a fairly heavy foot on there, and I will probably return this and put 3 feet on this rather than just taking that foot all the way off when I come to reverse turn it. So I will sand this now, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we start saving the center. So once you've got your Bowlsaver all set up and the correct height, you're ready to do your first bowl. There are several different ways of measuring to check the wall thickness you're going to use, and to make sure you're not going to go through the bottom. So with this, you need to decide this is going to be which is going to be the biggest bowl. Obviously the outside one is going to be my biggest, so I want to take out about 1.25 inch thickness wall. So I've actually I have already marked it. So I bring this up because it's a very deep blank. This piece is actually 13.25 inches, 13.5 inches in diameter, and about 5.25 inches deep. So in the box that the Bowlsaver comes in, there are a couple of templates that you the self-adhesive, and you just stick it on a bit of 3mm ply or masonite hardboard, and this gives you a guide so that you don't go through the bottom. So you line that up with the center of the hole, or the center of the bolt, and that's the bottom of the bowl is there. And as you make smaller bowls, this will come up, so it tells you that you're not going to go through the bottom. And the same with the smaller blade. You do the same thing, but you're doing that way around. Yeah, you're doing it off there. So that's the 2 templates. The other way to check where what bowl size is going to be is to use the Woodcut Light guide, and you set this up so it's on the corner of the cutter, and then you rotate it round, and it tells you exactly where the Bowlsaver's, the bottom of the bowl is going to be. So I want to try and get this as tight as I possibly can to get the maximum I can out of this. So it's just this plate over here is just missing. Need to back it up ever so slightly. There we go. So that's nothing's touching there. So that's telling me that what I've got there. I'm looking for about 1.25 inches wall thickness. So this, I've got 1.25 inches here, and from the light there, I've got 1.25 inches to the bottom of the bowl as well. So that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I can take this out now, turn the light off, and now I connect up the tailstock assembly. So just bring that up. Before I lock the tailstock, I just use my little dead blow mallet just to make sure that tailstock, the Morse taper, is low seated well. Tighten that up, tighten your tool post up underneath, make sure your banjo's tight as well. To give, what I do to give me a little bit more control is actually turn an extension handle on here. Just take the bung out the end of the handle and pop that in, and it just gives me more control. It's not to make the thing go faster, it's just to give me that little bit extra control. So now, checking that nothing's touching, I can turn the lathe on, and I place my thumb over the cutter here, and I can just ease that in. So a few more revs, probably about 500–600 RPM. Just take your time, let the shavings clear them away. When you draw it out, you've got to be careful you don't touch the plate on the other side. And I tend to clear it as often as I need to. If it stops cutting, just bring it out, clear the shavings. You don't want to be forcing it. So a loose shaving there. When I'm clearing the shavings all the time like that, I actually visualize this clear section here, so I know when I'm coming close to the cutter being back in the cutting position again. Now we're cutting a large diameter here. I mean, the piece that's coming out the middle is nearly 11 inches in diameter. So there's a lot of peripheral force, torque there. So just take your time. Don't try and rush it, and just let the cutter do the work. This is quite a powerful lathe. This is a 3-horse lathe. I have used the Bowlsaver on this sort of size pieces on lesser powerful lathes, 1.5 horse. If you're most people aren't doing this sort of size bowl, but just take your time, let the tool do the work. Now you get to a certain point where you're starting to cut into the end grain, and that's what causes some more vibration. Here you're cutting the sides off the straws, as I think of wood as a big bundle of straws going this way. You're cutting into the sides of them. When you get around here, you're starting to cut into the ends of them, and they don't cut quite as nicely. And that's where you really need to keep clearing. So I'm clearing these shavings very frequently. I could hear then that it had picked up a loose shaving over the end. And again. Still got a way to go. This is taking the maximum diameter bowl out I can. So we're going to have to come right round the full arc to get to cut the bottom. Just going to switch off and get rid of all these shavings in here. Pick that one off the end there. So now you can see I'm almost all the way around here, but I've still got a fair way to go yet. And when you hear that, the tone change, just come around and check. And there's a little bit of flex there, but not a great deal yet. So we're getting close to being, to that coming out. A little bit more. Close. Okay, that'll probably do. I can probably just snap that out there now. Yep, there we go. So that's the first one out. Just bring that out. Little twist. And there is your first save. We've gone down to about 3/4 of an inch spigot in the bottom there. So that's your first save. So out of this 13 13.25 inch bowl, 13.5 inch bowl, we've saved a piece that's 10.25 inches diameter by 4 inches deep. So I can set that to one side, got rid of some shavings down there, take the Bowlsaver out, so I can now so that bowl is, we'll call finished. Just check the wall thickness. So that's what it is there. It does get a little bit thicker as we go down, but not a great deal. So I'll just spot measure there. So up here I've got 1.25 inches. It's a bit thicker, so it's 1/4 inch thicker at the bottom, but that was the maximum we could take out. So that's your first bowl finished. So this is my main bowl, which, as we said, is 13.25 inches in diameter, about 1.25 inches thick and a little bit thicker in the bottom, but we'll finish that, and then I will return that and create some feet on the bottom of that bowl. So now we deal with the bonus bowls and go back onto the screw chuck. Now I will use the same jaws again. I'm just going to skim that little bit off the bottom. A few more revs now that we're on a smaller piece. Making sure I don't touch the outer leg. Just gently touch that leg against the, where my finger is against the surface, just a little bit more. There we go, that is spot on. I'm going to create another spigot here. Just come down to that line. So a little reference, to give you a little reference, I put a tiny little chamfer on that corner. Yeah, there's a tiny little chamfer there, which is giving me a reference point. So as that disappears, or partly disappears, I can see exactly how much I'm taking off rather than just guessing. So again, try the chuck. So that's loose, that's perfect. That's rotating freely, and then it's not even a 1/4 turn on there, and that chuck has got a really good grip. No run out again on the chuck. So now what I'm going to do is just put a OG curve in here. Be careful not to lose that grip. So you can see I've got that little curve in there. Just put a couple of beads. So there's one. Just a shallow bead there. Get rid of that little pip in the middle. So you can carefully sand that. I've cut that as cleanly as possible so it doesn't need to spend a lot of time sanding. There's no tear in there. Just want to make that a little bit shallower. Stand the tool up on edge so you're going to get nice and crisp in the bottoms of those beads. So that's your foot created with the my bowl gouge is just with that wing, just blend that in away from the foot. And now I can just skim the outside of this. A few more revs. Nice and clean, no tear out, freshly sharpened gouge. So with some careful sanding, you can hand sand in here and then hand sand that little bit and then power sand the rest of it, or whatever sanding technique you use. So be careful not to take away that crisp dovetail there. Put it back on the chuck, just check that that's rotating freely, tighten that up so that will run really true. Take that off the screw chuck, bowl back on, drop your Bowlsaver back in. Come on, you will go in, there we go. Now position it to take the thickness of your next bowl out. So I'm looking for about 5/8 of an inch here. So the point needs to line up with the center of the bolt. And then we bring that in. So that's set up. So at this stage, if you've got the light guide, you can pop that back in, turn your light on, check that it's on the corner of that cutter, right there. And that will tell you exactly where that's going. So we're looking for 5/8 of an inch, and I think we can probably just ease that in a fraction. That looks better. So tighten that up. Take your light guide away. So now you've got to move the tailstock assembly back so you can connect that back up like that. And before I just, as I said again, just tap that in with a dead blow mallet just to check that it is in the right position. Check everything's tight. Make sure that's tight under there. Then you're ready to start your second bowl. Same procedure as before. A little bit faster now. So a little bit faster. When you think you're getting somewhere near, again, just check. A little bit of give there, but not much just yet. Getting close. At this stage I don't actually withdraw the cutter, just back it off a tiny bit. Probably take a little bit more out. Yeah. Being elm, it's a little bit stubborn. So again, we've got that about 3/4 of an inch at the bottom. So I can now finish that bowl. Okay, so bowl number 2 just needs sanding. Screw chuck back on. Bowl bank back on. There's this mark here is where I did slightly change the angle, just to the angle of or the depth that the bowl was going to have. So again, just remove that little nub that's left. Now I don't, at this stage, there is a little bit of bounce there. I don't bother about cleaning that up at this stage. Set my spigot diameter, then I can clean it up. You waste too much wood if you do it the other way around. Or if you call the centre one a big bead. Go, that's on the point. Bring that round and I can see that I'm not going to go through the bottom there. Connect my tailstock back up again. Just check, yeah, it did lose a little bit out of there. I can see that starting to oscillate. Twist that out. Still got a good profile to it, although we put that decorative groove up there. So I've changed jaws to a smaller set of tower jaws. It's the same principle. Perfect. So what I do every so often, just to keep the tip in really good condition, is just with my diamond lap, with the fine side, I just run it up that face a couple of times, just to keep that really sharp. Yep, that's good. Not quite. I drilled the hole too deep on the screw chuck to be able to get another one out of that. But there are 4 bowls out of one 13-inch blank, and 4 usable bowls. Yeah, that's still a sweet little bowl. Okay, thanks for watching that. I hope that was helpful. So this chapter is about using the Bowlsaver to rough out bowls that you're going to dry and then return later. So as you can see, I've got this mounted in the chuck. I took the same care with the spigot as I did before with the previous piece. I've got the basic shape I want because we're just going to be roughing this one out. So this piece is 12.5-inch diameter by 5.5 inches deep. Want to decide how many bowls I want to take out of here. So the first one, to allow for some shrinkage, I'll leave it just over an inch thick, about 1 1/8 inches thick. So allow it for the cutter there. The next one, about 1 1/8 inches thick. So there, mark that again. But we don't need to go quite that thick. So we'll come back with the cutter there, and then the next one about there, and that will be the cutter there. So I'm going to start with the small bowl blade first. So it's just a case of swapping the blades over. So reverse that one round, put that one in place, drop that back on. So they are tight. Position the Bowlsaver so you can take the maximum out. Connect up the tailstock. Now, did you spot the deliberate mistake there? I forgot to take the centre out of that. Not a problem. I've got my screw point in there. I can create a quick spigot on there and then hollow the centre out. These aren't hemispherical. This is slightly conical shape, if you like, because we've gone into the centre. Well worth saving because it is beautiful wood. So I'm going to come up again. Loosen that off. Still going to stick with the small blade. Come out. Now I'm going to get that as close as I can so I can actually angle that so that goes in, so the point, the pivot point is nice and close, as close as I can get it. So it's actually inside the bowl. Okay, so let's go again. The small blade doesn't quite reach far enough, so I'm going to extend it enough that it will reach all the way around. So here I slid it through by about 10 mil and then retightened the bolts. So I'm blowing away the shavings that have got stuck between the swivel plate and the support block to ensure that the cutter goes right to its full extent. So I've changed over to the large blade, and it's just a case of doing the same thing again. Again, I'm clearing the debris out between the blade support block and the swivel plate so that the blade can go to its maximum depth. So all I need to do here is just take a little bit more out here to even up the wall thickness. So there you have 1, 2, 3, and a little bowl there, roughed out. It's that easy to use. So you can see from that it is a pretty easy tool to use. It's very efficient, and you can save an awful lot of wood and money with it.